Freedom is one of the most powerful words in modern life. It appears everywhere in advertising, in political speeches, in social media captions, and in the personal goals people set for themselves. We are encouraged to be free to choose our careers, our lifestyles, our opinions, and even our identities. Compared to previous generations, modern individuals enjoy an unprecedented level of personal freedom. Yet this expansion of freedom has created a quiet tension. As freedom grows, responsibility grows alongside it, often in ways that are uncomfortable, confusing, or ignored. The central question of modern life is no longer whether we are free, but whether we understand what freedom truly demands from us. In the past, life was more clearly structured. Social roles were largely assigned by family, class, gender, or tradition. People often knew what was expected of them, even if they did not always agree with it. Today, many of those structures have weakened. We are told that we can become almost anything, live almost anywhere, and define success on our own terms. This sounds liberating, and in many ways it is. However, the removal of clear boundaries also removes clear guidance. When everything is possible, deciding becomes more difficult, and the responsibility for failure falls almost entirely on the individual. Modern freedom is deeply connected to choice. We choose what we study, where we work, whom we love, how we spend our time, and how we present ourselves to the world. At first glance, choice seems like pure freedom. But choice also creates pressure. Each decision closes off other possibilities, and this can lead to anxiety, regret, and constant self-questioning. People often wonder whether they made the right choice, especially when comparing their lives to others online. In this way, freedom without a strong sense of responsibility can easily turn into restlessness rather than fulfillment. Responsibility is often seen as the enemy of freedom. Many people associate responsibility with obligation, limitation, or loss of pleasure. Yet, responsibility is not simply about restriction. At its core, responsibility is about ownership. It means accepting that our choices have consequences, not only for ourselves but also for others. True freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the ability to choose while fully accepting the outcomes of those choices. Without responsibility, freedom becomes shallow and unstable. One clear example of this tension can be seen in the modern workplace. Many people value flexibility, independence, and the ability to shape their own careers. Remote work, freelance contracts, and digital entrepreneurship are often celebrated as symbols of freedom. However, these forms of work also require a high level of self-discipline and accountability. Without a fixed schedule or direct supervision, individuals must manage their time, motivation, and long-term planning on their own. Those who succeed often discover that freedom at work demands more responsibility, not less. The same tension appears in personal relationships. Modern culture encourages emotional freedom, self-expression, and personal growth. People are told not to stay in relationships that limit them or make them unhappy. While this advice can be healthy, it can also lead to a lack of commitment if responsibility is ignored. Relationships require effort, patience, and the willingness to take responsibility for another person's emotional well-being. When freedom is prioritized without responsibility, relationships can become fragile and easily abandoned at the first sign of difficulty. Social media has intensified the conflict between freedom and responsibility in a unique way. On one hand, platforms offer freedom of expression on a global scale. Anyone can share opinions, ideas, and personal experiences with a large audience. On the other hand, this freedom often lacks responsibility. Words are posted without reflection, emotions are shared without context, and misinformation spreads rapidly. The result is a public space where freedom is loud but accountability is weak. Modern life shows us that freedom of speech without responsibility of thought can damage trust and social cohesion. Another important aspect of this topic is personal identity. Modern individuals are encouraged to define themselves freely, beyond traditional labels. This has created space for diversity and self-discovery, which is a positive development. However, identity freedom also comes with responsibility. When people define themselves only through personal feelings or momentary desires, identity can become unstable. Responsibility here means reflecting deeply, understanding one's values, and recognizing how identity choices affect relationships and communities. Freedom of identity without responsibility can lead to confusion rather than empowerment. The concept of responsibility also extends to mental and emotional life. Modern culture often emphasizes self-care, personal happiness, and emotional freedom. While these ideas are important, they sometimes promote avoidance of discomfort. Responsibility, in contrast, involves facing difficult emotions, taking responsibility for one's reactions, and working through challenges rather than escaping them. Emotional freedom does not mean feeling good all the time. It means having the strength to engage honestly with one's inner life. Environmental issues offer another powerful illustration. Modern lifestyles provide freedom of consumption, travel, and convenience. However, these freedoms come at a cost to the planet. Responsibility in this context means recognizing that personal choices contribute to collective outcomes. True freedom in modern life may require limiting certain behaviors in order to preserve long-term well-being for future generations. This challenges the idea that freedom means unlimited access, suggesting instead that freedom and responsibility must evolve together. It is important to recognize that responsibility is not always imposed from the outside. In mature individuals, responsibility becomes internal. It is guided by values rather than fear of punishment. When responsibility is internalized, freedom becomes more meaningful. Choices are not made impulsively, but thoughtfully. Actions align with long-term goals rather than short-term pleasure. This form of freedom feels less dramatic, but more stable. Education plays a crucial role in shaping how individuals understand this balance. Modern education often emphasizes skills, creativity, and independent thinking, which are essential for freedom. However, it must also cultivate ethical reasoning, self-discipline, and social awareness. Without these, freedom can become directionless. A truly modern education prepares individuals not only to choose, but to choose wisely. The tension between freedom and responsibility is not something that can be resolved once and for all. It is an ongoing process that changes throughout life. In youth, freedom often feels urgent and exciting, while responsibility feels heavy. With experience, many people realize that responsibility can create deeper freedom. When individuals commit to values, relationships, or meaningful work, they often feel more grounded and less anxious. Responsibility provides structure, and structure allows freedom to grow in a sustainable way. Modern life does not require us to choose between freedom and responsibility. Instead, it challenges us to redefine freedom itself. Freedom is not doing whatever we want at any moment. It is the ability to live in alignment with our values, to make conscious choices, and to accept their consequences. Responsibility does not limit freedom. It gives it depth and direction. In a world full of options, the most powerful form of freedom may be the ability to say no. Saying no to distractions, no to harmful habits, and no to empty comparisons requires responsibility toward oneself. This kind of freedom is quiet and often invisible, but it leads to clarity and purpose. It shows that freedom is not about external abundance, but internal control. Ultimately, freedom versus responsibility in modern life is not a conflict to be won, but a balance to be learned. Those who pursue freedom without responsibility often feel lost, overwhelmed, or dissatisfied. Those who accept responsibility without freedom may feel trapped or resentful. The challenge of modern life is to hold both at the same time. When freedom is guided by responsibility, it becomes not only a personal privilege, but a force that strengthens individuals, relationships, and society as a whole. In this sense, the true measure of freedom in modern life is not how many choices we have, but how consciously we live with the choices we make.